If you're a speaker and want to get more engagements, you need a book. Frankly, there's so many people applying to be speakers. The first thing a meeting planner looks for is, have they written a book? And if you haven't, you're not going to make the first cut. Fortunately, there is a book inside of every speaker. And today you're going to learn how to turn your speech into a book. Hi, I'm Dan Janelle. I'm a book coach, developmental editor, and ghostwriter. And no matter where you are in the writing process, I can help you write your book. Now, let's get started. Our guest today is Cathy Fyock, who's actually written a book on this topic. How are you, Cathy?
I'm great. I'm great. Thanks for having me, Dan.
I thought you were going to hold up your book. Are you? Show us your book, The Speaker Author. Okay.
The Speaker Author, which I wrote with Lois Kramer.
Lois is the person on how to market your speaking business. So it's going to be a great book. So tell us, how is it that every speaker has a book inside them? How can they turn their speech into a book? That's the secret. You're speaking for 60 minutes or a full day. That's your book. But how do you turn that content into a book, Cathy?
Well, I think first is to get really, really clear about how you're going to use your book in your speaking business. So there's lots of different types of speakers out there. There's keynoters, there's folks who do coaching along with training. There's folks who have online courses. So first is to get really clear about how your book will interface with your clients. Is it something you want everyone in the audience to be holding as a takeaway to reinforce the learning? Is it the foundational pieces of your talk? Is it the curriculum that you'll use for the training that you do? So getting really clear on how you will use your book with your business, and then writing that book based on the use that you will want to get out of that book.
So the book really becomes a big business card for you. So people know what you do and they get to know, like, and trust you. And it fits your business purpose as well for getting more speeches and for helping people in the audience reinforce your message so they can take your message home with you and share it with other people in their community as well.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned several different kinds of books that related to speeches. Let's focus in on, say, the 80-20 rules that would affect most of the people here. Let's say they're mostly trainers. How would you take your training and turn that into a book?
Well, I think first is kind of simple, is do you deliver your content in chunks? So what are the chunks that you deliver your content? So for example, one of my books, there were 6 chapters. I had in mind 6 modules. So it's a matter of thinking, does the book's structure match the way you will deliver the training? And I think that's the most obvious. Sometimes it's just so obvious we don't see it though, but it's thinking in those kind of very obvious ways about chunking out your book chapters so that it matches and can be congruent with the training that you're provided.
I suppose also that there's only so much material you can deliver in a live seminar because you're limited by time by the sponsor, and you can put extra material into the book too.
Absolutely. And I'm a big believer in having a landing page with your book so that you can add additional content. You can be in touch with your readers. You can include them on your lists and include them for future offerings and so forth. So yes, absolutely.
Excellent. Always be thinking about marketing. You can't go wrong. So
yes,
take them back to your website, download this worksheet. Right.
That's right. But I would never, by the way, I would never send them to a website. I would send them to a landing page. Yeah. And the differentiator being, it's where you can capture that contact information for that individual so that you can add them to your list. And they can be part of the excitement going forward with new books or new materials or a workbook that goes with your book or whatever it might be.
Exactly. That's what I meant to say. So thank you for correcting me. I'm wondering, can the book be word for word from your lectures and training, or do you need to massage it at all?
you probably need to massage it. The spoken word and the written word are often not quite the same. So you'll want to take a transcription. I think that's a great way to start. And in fact, with my clients, I say before we write the first word, let's look at all of your written materials. So looking at transcripts, looking at training materials that you already have, looking at blog content, article content, and let's look at all of that first. I don't really like to write, so I'm always looking for a shortcut, because if you've worked to make it really clear and coherent the first time, let's look at repurposing that work again. So looking at all the places you have already developed that content. Now, it may not fit exactly. You may have to change the voice a bit. You may have to change some of the examples depending upon the audience. So there may be quite a bit of editing work, but start with what you have already developed, and that will make the process much more seamless.
Great. Can you give us some ideas of, say, some best practices or some careful tips on what not to do?
What not to do. Some of the authors that I work with, they want to give an example, but in the training, they're used to the client providing, the attendees providing the examples. And I said, okay, when you're writing the book, you can't assume that your reader is filling in all of it. You've got to give them some examples. You've got to give them some of the answers to those questions. So that's one way that it's distinctively different for folks who do a lot of training in particular.
Really good. I love the idea of having an answer sheet in the book. I remember going to a training session once, and the trainer used an acronym. So it was Friday. I don't remember what it was. Let's say it was Friday. And he said, in training, the F would stand for, and we're like, we have no clue what the F would stand for in training. And it was just, to him, it was obvious. To us, it was like, huh? So I love the idea of having blank sheets that people can fill in, as well as answer sheets that you can check the real answers. What other material could you put into a book that you could not include in training because there wasn't enough time, or the client was too much into a niche, or specialized materials that you couldn't use outside of a protected environment? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, sure. And what I like to think of is sort of the if you or think about going to the movies, if you go to the movie and you see one of your favorite books that's been made into a movie, there's a lot that's left out in the movie because they just don't have time. But in the book, you have the chance to go into a little bit deeper of the story. You can give another story. You can give the backstory. So there's a lot more that you can include in the book that you just can't include in the training in real time, just as you can't see it all in the movie.
Right. Cathy, I'm wondering if you can give us any tips on how to design a cover for a book that would really impress a meeting planner.
Well, I think that you need to use a professional who has some expertise in this area. I work with a publisher who basically does a cover contest, and I think this is a great idea because it not only allows your targeted reader to give you feedback on which cover is the most compelling, but it's sometimes it's surprising what others will choose that you didn't see because you were just too close to it. So cover design, I think, is best done with first of all a professional, and second of all getting input from the targeted reader, who then gets buy-in and they get excited about the cover and they are excited about the launch of your book.
Great ideas. Cathy, can you tell us who your ideal client is and how can they get in touch with you?
Well, I think the ideal client for me is that speaker or consultant or coach who has their content down cold. They don't have a book, or they don't have a new book that reflects their current curriculum, and they need to get it written. They reach me by just sending me an email at Cathy@cathyfyock.com. And again, that's my website is cathyfyock.com.
Well, thank you for being with us today, Cathy, and thanks to everyone for watching. You can find more than 150 videos on this YouTube channel and our podcast on how to write and market your book in a flash. Thanks. Check them out.